హలో అందరికీ హాయ్. ఇవాళ మనం కాటన్ బెల్ట్ ట్రైన్ మ్యూజియం చూద్దాము. లోపల మీకు ట్రైన్స్ అన్నీ చూపిస్తాను. అవి చూసి మనం ఎంజాయ్ చేద్దాం. మళ్ళీ అవసరమైనప్పుడు మాట్లాడతాను. మీకు ఈ వీడియో నచ్చినట్టయితే సబ్స్క్రైబ్ చేసుకొని షేర్ కూడా చేయండి. ఓకే, మళ్ళీ అవసరమైనప్పుడు మాట్లాడతాను.
The Cotton Belt General Office's baseball team here in Tyler from 1898.
Wow.
And that gentleman right there is my grandfather.
I'll zoom your grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
Second, right?
That one. Yeah.
Nice, fantastic. It's been like close to 150 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this building was the second depot the railroad had. The original depot was in this vicinity, but it was both passenger and freight. And in 1905, they built this as a passenger depot here. We're in the baggage section, and they built a new freight depot across the street the next year. So this building's about 120 years old.
120 years, wow.
Yeah. And up here, this is the original flooring up here.
Nice.
The wide pine boards.
Your good name, please?
JWJones.
JWJones. Nice meeting you.
But this railroad, the St. Louis Southwestern Railroad, it started in Tyler in the 1870s because Tyler didn't have any railroad service at that time, and local leaders, businessmen, civic leaders, got up the money and built a short line that ran between here and Big Sandy, Texas, called the Tyler Tap Railroad, and that was the origin of what became the St. Louis Southwestern Railroad that ran from Central Texas up through East Texas, Arkansas, and into St. Louis and Memphis, Tennessee.
Nice.
And it also branched off northeast of here in Mount Pleasant and went back into Dallas and Fort Worth.
So first it started here and then it went to Dallas?
Yeah, it kind of roundabout way. You'd have to catch a different train on the same railroad that went into Dallas and Fort Worth. And but the nickname was the Cotton Belt Route, and it just sort of over time, that's what everybody called it, Cotton Belt Railroad. But it was a first-class one railroad in America to do away with passenger service. The last passenger train that stopped in Tyler, Cotton Belt had, was in 1956.
Oh.
So that's almost 65 years ago. So this station sat idle for about 30 years. The Southern Pacific Railroad had acquired the Cotton Belt. They donated the building and the land to the city, probably just to get it off the tax rolls. But then the city was able to raise money over about a 20-year period, and they refurbished it. And in 2005, our local bus company, Tyler Transit, opened up the offices they have in the old ticket area passenger weight room, and Cotton Belt Rail Historical Society put the museum here in the baggage section.
Wow.
So this museum's been here for about 18 years in this location.
18?
Yeah.
Nice. I love the museum. It's very nice.
Yeah, it's not a whole lot of room, and we've got a cram full of stuff.
But whatever you have, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And you used up the space pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I'll post in the YouTube, and even you can watch. I'll give you the link.
Sure. Yeah, just about everything. Now, a lot of the Lionel O-scale type model trains downstairs, that was one gentleman's collection that he donated to the city of Tyler, but everything else has been acquired by the Cotton Belt Rail Historical Society chapter here in Tyler. And we've got some pretty nice Cotton Belt stuff. That dispatch board that was in power. That was, you know, what they used to control traffic on the railroad from about the 1950s up until, you know, computers took over.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a huge deal technologically when they put this in, because prior to that, all of communications would have been by telegraph, and they would have a mechanical semaphore. A station manager would have to raise and lower to stop the train or let it pass, and they would have to hand the crews written instructions with these bamboo poles over there, those hoops and poles. So when the Cotton Belt, which was only a single mainline railroad, when they put this system in, they upped their freight hauling capability by 80%. Just because now one man could see where every train was on his part of the system he was controlling, operate every switch and mainline signals. Now the railroad does it with flat screen monitors and computers, like that picture there.
Nice.
The museum's a good blend of model trains, railroad era memorabilia, and Cotton Belt historical.
I think in olden days they used to use it even in movies, right? In some of the movies they show them as real ones.
Yeah. Some movies use model trains as opposed to real things, and some of the, some of the older tourist type trains, like the Texas State Railroad that runs between Palestine and Rust. It's been featured in movies before. If they were shooting an old Western or something, they'd actually, set up and use that train like it was a train, operating back
movies,
100
right?
years before. Yeah. Cotton Belt wasn't a well-known train because it was more of a regional railroad as opposed to, the national ones like, New York Central and Union Pacific and all those. But we've actually got studies from the Yale transportation program that showed during the 50s, 60s, and 70s, the Cotton Belt was considered the most efficient railroad company in America. So they were very frugal and
wow. So most efficient?
Very
okay.
good, yeah.
So it's profitable.
Yeah. Yeah. And they had 2 or 3 different kind of metrics they used to develop it. The guy that was the professor at Yale that ran that program, he had done a study in the 1950s because it was his opinion that the pending New York Central Pennsylvania Railroad merger was going to be a disaster because it was going to make it so big it would be cumbersome. And so he did this study to kind of prove his point, to show that medium-sized railroads would be more efficient. And it just worked out that the Cotton Belt was the one that came in number 1, which little something to be proud of.
Yeah. Your grandson of your great grandfather, right?
Yeah. My grandfather passed away. He was still working for the railroad in his position. He passed away in 1946, before I was even born. But he was in his 70s.
Wow.
He wasn't a young man.
So he had a good life.
Yeah. Just had a bad ticker and heart problems. But he had started out as an office boy when he got out of high school, working in the office that was here in Tyler. And when he died, he had been the secretary treasurer and chief auditor of the Texas part of the railroad.
Nice.
So he did pretty well for himself with no formal education.
And he had strong roots.
Yeah. Now I think you can film a real train coming by here in a little bit.
Sure.
It's about twice a week. They take one or two railroad cars down south where there's a American Standard air conditioning plant, and they still get their refrigerant by rail car. But they should be coming up from the south on this little side railroad.
Okay. It already came?
Yeah, he's going to be coming from the south. He'll come out?
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll be coming right up through here, and the horn will split your ears. Yeah, he'll be coming up this way.
Okay.
And what he's going to have to do, he's going to go up there. The railroad doesn't go any further north than that. And he'll switch onto this siding to where he can get on the yard line right here and go back to the railroad yard.
This way, right?
Yeah, he's coming towards you. That was waiting on him.
Real cool. Yeah, it stopped.
Yeah, he's gonna let this guy get by first. Get the jackpot. That train's from two directions off the same.
Exactly.
That's unusual.
Jackpot at night. Two trains same time.
Good timing.
Thank you, Jones. Jones is saying like I hit the jackpot. We can see the second train now.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be coming. And that train, all those tank cars, that was diesel fuel produced at the local refinery just on the other side of it.
Oh, this is the
Bridge
local
over there.
oil, right?
Yeah, there's a local petroleum refinery.
Petroleum,
here.
okay.
And I used to work there. I'm
Wow.
a chemical engineer, worked in the refining business my whole career. And most of the gasoline it makes delivered by truck locally, especially in the summer. But diesel fuel, they make way more than the local demand. So they've gotten back to where they rely on moving that out by the rail cars. And kind of a back to the future thing. That refinery back in the 1930s and 40s, it was the biggest shipper on the Cotton Belt system because they moved most of their oil products out by rail. But then the rail service got so poor in the 1970s and 1980s that everything started moving out by truck. But now it's kind of cycled back around to where quite a bit of the diesel fuel goes out by train.
Nice. So you know even chemistry then, organic chemistry.
I was a chemical engineer. Yeah.
My father was like also into chemical. Like he worked as a chief chemist in world's largest desalination plant.
Okay. Well, I was the plant tech service engineer, and then later
my late father
operations manager over there for a while. Then I worked last half of my career. I was living in Dallas and working for a consulting firm that dealt with refining. So I've probably been in about a third of the refineries in America, a few overseas.
Nice. Yeah, I'll capture. I think I can capture even this gate.
You ought to start revving up here a little bit.
It will take a minute.
He's got to get a clear go-ahead from his dispatch.
It will take 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know. I would think he would get a clear go-ahead here unless there's another mainline train that's coming by in a few minutes. I just don't know. There's no set schedule. They just go when they go.
The trafficking system is still working good. That's the better part.
I'm gonna go inside and check on the
Sure.
to their other line that was in Troop, Texas. But now the only part of that line that's active is just right up there in those woods down toward South Tyler, where that air conditioning plant is. Everything else has been either the rails have been pulled up, they're just out of service. Union Pacific owns both the Texas and Pacific, Missouri Pacific, and Cotton Belt rails in this area. So they run their freight trains like it's a parallel system. All of the normal through trains on the Cotton Belt line are almost entirely westbound, and the eastbound trains come on the old Missouri Pacific line that sort of parallels the Cotton Belt through East Texas and up through Arkansas into St. Louis. A little more efficient way to do it since they got the extra rails.
But signal is somewhat slow, right? If nothing is coming, it's been 5 minutes that the other train left.
Yeah, you know.
These are like, is this a passenger train? No, right?
No, that's all nothing but freight.
All freight.
There's very few passenger trains left in America, and they're almost exclusively Amtrak.
Yeah.
Amtrak was set up by the federal government in 1970 because all the railroads wanted to get out of the passenger business. It was not profitable. Once you had interstate highways where people could drive their car faster than the trains went, and you had inexpensive airfare cross country, there was no real need for passenger trains anymore. And the Amtrak's history's not great. The only lines that make any money are the Northeast corridor. That runs
I was in New Jersey for a long time.
And Boston.
So I used to see that Amtrak in New Jersey.
Yeah, and the other one was Los Angeles to San Diego. Everything else loses money every year.
Only West Coast and especially Northeast is the profitable one.
Rail only makes sense when you have population density.
Northeast there is a lot of population.
In terms of passenger trains,
Yeah, New Jersey is the most densely populated state in US. So there they can make good money.
Yeah.
Even DC area, since it's the capital, there will be a lot of people. So there is Amtrak in Texas also, no, right?
Yeah. The part that's in Texas is it used to be a Missouri Pacific route, comes out of Chicago, goes through St. Louis. It'll come in and through Texarkana, and then it will then parallel Interstate 20, US Highway 80, that goes through Marshall. They stop at Mineola up here, just north of us. Dallas, Fort Worth, and then it turns south and goes through Temple, Austin, and it terminates in San Antonio. And you can connect up in San Antonio and keep going west all the way to Los Angeles. But it takes forever to go through Texas. I mean, you literally spend an entire day going from Longview to when the train picks you up in San Antonio and takes you west. So it's just, when you hop on a plane and be there 4 hours later, you want to really ride the train to be able to do that. And that's what most people do. A lot of them, they ride their train because it's a little slower pace. You get to visit with people. You get to see a little different scenery than the highway, And so most of the people that travel by train, it's almost kind of like a quasi vacation. They're riding it for that purpose as much as getting where they want to go. I had ridden Amtrak for probably 20 years.
Oh, you were?
I have ridden it a couple of times. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Amtrak.
The food was really good. They pretty much phasing out the dining cars now. Evidently, the younger generation doesn't.
That's still the fastest, right?
I'm sorry.
That's still the fastest train in US, right?
Yeah,
Amtrak?
yeah. That's the only passenger.
I used to see even ACELA or ACELA, ACELA.
Yeah, that's Amtrak.
That's
Kayla. Yeah, that's one of their trains. Most of the Amtrak trains kept some of the old passenger train names. Like the one that comes through us on the old Missouri Pacific line. It's called the Texas Eagle because the Missouri Pacific and the Texas Pacific, they named their passenger trains Eagles. This Eagle and that Eagle. Cotton Belts, it was always had Star in it. The Lone Star, the Morning Star, just like the Santa Fe, had some chief, they had chief Indian headdress kind of theme.
I can see the train number.
Yeah, you're not showing any signs of moving yet, but
I think the train number is 825.
we might have a half dozen freight trains come through during the 6 hours here Thursdays. Usually that train operates that goes north and south. It operates on Thursday. get out and throw that switch over there. It puts him on this circular sidetrack that'll bring him on the line will come right by us going back into the yard.
So now it will go that way?
Huh?
Now the train will go that way, straight?
No, he's stopped. He's gonna back up now. You'll see the guy get out and he'll throw a switch where, see that post kind of sticking up with the little sign on it? Yeah, that's where the switch is. He'll get out and throw that switch. And then he'll back along that, see the track over there? That's there for that express reason, to where they can put an east-west train on the north-south track, vice versa. Yeah, where the D is. Yeah, you see the guy standing there in the jacket? Yeah, he's gonna throw that switch now.
Yeah, I zoomed it, I could see him. He is near that alphabet D. He's near that alphabet D.
Yeah, where it says D. Yeah, that's a switch post. And so you can see now, you can see a little red target that's telling the north-south train the switch is not in their position. And he'll back up, it'll squeal, wheels will squeal a little bit. And he'll have to get out. Once he gets down there, he'll have to get out and throw the switch to get onto the main line.
This is just like maintaining the track?
No, he took a tank car like that down to the air conditioning plant with refrigerant. You know, the Freon and stuff down there. Oh, Freon. Yeah, and so he's bringing the empty car he picked up back. And so they'll take it into the yard and stage it to where the next time the train goes towards the cannon, they'll drop that car.
So he'll come this way
Yeah,
again?
he's gonna come this way. And he'll be on that inside track just like that train that left the yard. The outside track's the main line for the through train instead of not going into the yard. So he'll have to go a couple of switches. That's why he's riding on the back end of the yard.
Yeah, again he got down.
Yeah, Union Pacific was one of the first two of the transcontinental railroads in the United States. And the Central Pacific was the other one. That was the one that built from California back east. And Central Pacific, after they added more lines that went south in California, changed their name to Southern Pacific. And the Southern Pacific was the railroad that acquired the Cotton Belt. Union Pacific acquired the Southern Pacific in the 1990s. So today's Union Pacific was the original transcontinental railroad for America. And interestingly enough, the Southern Pacific line that comes to Texas from Southern California, that was originally planned on being the route of the first transcontinental railroad. And America specifically bought a section of land that's in southern Arizona and New Mexico from Mexico, because that was the way the railroad surveyors said they needed to go for that reason. But they abandoned the plans because the 1950s, the American Civil War was starting to brew. and they decided they didn't want the first transcontinental railroad being built in the South. So that's why they picked that route that went through Nebraska and Colorado. It was tough going through those mountains, very, very expensive. If you ever drive Interstate 10 out west toward Tucson, Arizona, like I do, you understand why they wanted it to go that way. There ain't no tunnels. It's just a gradual going up and a gradual
So
going down.
your son is there in Tucson,
Yeah,
Arizona?
he's in Tucson. Yeah, he works for the Air Force. And he's
Wow.
stationed out there.
So he's with his mother now.
Yeah, he's the dad. Yeah, well, we're actually moving out there this time next year.
Oh, okay, nice.
My wife insisted that we move where the grandchildren are.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Easy for her. She wasn't born and raised in Tyler like I was. Most people are amazed that I'm going, but I just explained to them that she informed me that she, our daughter, and all our money were going there, and I was welcome to come too.
Definitely. You deserve it.
Yeah, well, you know, it beats the alternative. But it's not, like I said, there's good points. I won't ever have to mow grass again. Our yard is rocks, just like that.
Yeah. So you like hot weather?
Not really. At my age now, I like mild weather. Used to when I was younger, I preferred hot weather to cold weather. But when you get to be my age, you like mild weather. So I'm trading hot, humid temperatures in Texas for really hot, dry temperatures in the summer in Tucson. But I get really nice winters out of the exchange.
He got down again, but only the train is coming. He's still over there. He's near that switch. He did not board the train.
Yeah, no, this is
Oh,
just
okay,
him.
yeah,
This is him just going back into the
Oh,
yard.
it stopped. I thought it's going. It stopped.
Yeah, he had to stop so the brakeman could go throw the switch back onto the main line for the next train that comes through. Once he gets him, he'll go down that way, and depending upon which track he ends up on, he might even have to. Well, I think there's another track in between us and those cars sitting down there, so he may not have to throw that other switch. He might be able to go just down the yard line that other train came out of earlier. But he'll go right by us.
Nice. Yeah, somebody threw the trash over there. Somebody threw the bag over there.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know from suddenly where it came, right? You just now picked up
Oh,
some.
just some trash. It's
Yeah.
just blowing. Yeah.
Yeah, you can explain inside. We'll,
Run through here?
No, it doesn't. You got to go to Mineola.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I was just curious.
Yeah. Yeah, Mineola's the closest Amtrak stop.
Oh, okay.
You're lucky to get a.
yeah, thank you.
You bet. Because I speak East Texan.
Oh, okay. But I can understand.
Well, you've been in Tyler 2 years. You've had to adapt to it.
Yeah. I can't tell that much of a difference, but yeah, I can tell little difference from Northeast and.
Yeah, it's you know, Texas is so big. It's like 5 different countries almost. When you got people that talk different in the South, talk different in West Texas.
Even
We-
I am in US close to 20 years now. This December I'll complete 20 years. Now I am a US citizen
Yeah, yeah. So where did y'all originally from? India, Pakistan?
from India,
India?
South India, Hyderabad.
Yeah.
Now the IT almost IT hub. Lot of like
Okay.
Amazon headquarters is
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
Microsoft is there. You name it, they have it. It's
Oh,
like
I
that.
know, I know. That's,
It's most popular for IT, information technology.
well, I think, I'm trying to think, I thought I read somewhere where maybe it might be that India's population's on the verge of going past America's. I don't know what the number.
No, already it's past America.
Okay, it already.
It's
it was-
going past China. They said.
Oh, okay. Well, there's somebody else that's
No,
creeping
like
up.
usually India, like US is land-wise 3 times bigger than India,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and
yeah.
population-wise it's like
Yeah, we're
3 times.
We're like 350 million.
I
or
think
something like that.
yeah, like population like India is 3 times more than US.
Okay.
So it's like land to population ratio. It's 9 times
it's
more.
much bigger.
9
Yeah,
times
much,
more.
Much more dense. Yeah.
That's why like lot of resources here, and now things are improving over there too.
Yeah.
But I love.
Somebody was about to pass us, and I forgot who it was. I read that somewhere, which is kind of who cares, you know.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, you know, America still has lots of space.
Yeah.
I remember when I was just out of school, and the environmental movement in this country started about in the 1970s, and that was about when I was getting out of college. And I took some environmental science courses as part of my chemical engineering. But I remember first time I really ever drove out. Me and a friend drove out through New Mexico, Arizona. We went to Las Vegas and up to Reno, Nevada, and over to San Francisco and back. And I remember thinking, you know, I was reading articles in the trade journals about how, they were just hyperventilating in the Northeast about we're running out of places to put garbage. We have to recycle. And I'm sitting there thinking, you could bury all of New York's garbage for the next 200 years out here and nobody would notice it. It was just desert with nothing. Just nothing. The American West is, I mean, even though we're Texas, if you're east of Fort Worth, you're really not the West. Eastern Texas is more like the deep South than it is, you know, New Mexico and Arizona and Colorado and all that. So the American West has got a lot different kind of history than we do here. But so much of it's mining and minerals. You know,
He's from West.
No, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, all those areas, you know, kind of around the Rocky Mountain range. Just amazing. The University of Texas System College that's out in El Paso, you know, their nicknames the miners, you know, and they taught a lot of mining science. One of the best chemical engineering schools for petroleum refining is the Colorado School of Mines. And that was a college started around mining. And there's a little place we drive through in New Mexico that was on the Southern Pacific rail line, Deming, New Mexico. And I found in our stuff we had in storage, somebody's collection, that little postcard, authentic, not a reproduction, from like 1912 or whatever, that showed the Deming train station. You know, I mean, they had, you could see some, look like, you know, American military people from that time period. You could tell by their uniforms. And so I said, you know, we drive through there twice going to see our son. I'm going to drop their little museum off this card. Well, it was during all the COVID stuff. And New Mexico was a lot more scared than Texas was. They kept everything locked down almost as long as anybody. But when they finally opened up, told my wife on our way back, I said, we're going to stop there and I'm going to give them the postcard and we'll look at their little museum, because I knew it was in like an old National Guard armory. But what I didn't know was that thing took up the entire city block. It just went everywhere. And they had the second best geode exhibit in America. You know, the ugly rocks and you crack them open and there's all these exotic crystals inside. Yeah, they had.
It's a lot of minerals.
It was fabulous. And they said, this is the most extensive geode collection in America other than the one at the Smithsonian. And it's in this town that's got a population of about 1,500 people or something. I mean, it's just,
Oh, Tyler has only 1,500?
no, this is Deming, New Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I was embarrassed because their museum had way more volunteers than we can recruit to work at this place. I mean, they were small enough that museum was really a source of civic pride. And people really supported it. You know, we're just one of a bunch here in the town. Tyler's over 100,000 now, and the county's probably 250,000. And our economy's still going pretty strong between the people relocate to Texas from California and that new medical school they're building here. So that inaugural medical class just started. They ain't got their building yet, but they're working on it.
Nice.
So that was a big deal. We were fortunate. The guy that was the chairman of the Board of Regents of the University of Texas system had been Tyler's mayor once upon a time. And he had a lot of influence on that being located here. But it helped because we had UT Tyler here. And then the UT system bought, they bought that tuberculosis hospital up in Winona a long time ago. And it became a real preeminent cancer research facility. And then they bought the East Texas Medical Center Hospital Group. And so all that says UT Health Northeast, those are all hospitals they acquired. Yeah, but our political clout hadn't been that high since the 1880s or 70s. Tyler was actually on the short list of towns to get the original University of Texas. Nobody knows that. When I tell people that, they don't believe it, but it's true. But we didn't get it, obviously. Austin got it. But the reason was the governor at the time was from Tyler. The lieutenant governor at the time was from Tyler.
Wow.
And the speaker of the legislature was from Tyler. So we had a lot of political clout for a little old dinky town.
I saw the Capitol building in Austin. I've been there.
Yeah. So we could have had the University of Texas. It was probably never a shot, but they had to put Tyler on the list to placate those three important politicians at the time.
It was like in 1990 something?
That would have been in the 1870s.
Wow, 70,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So way back.
Yeah. Tyler wasn't obviously big back then, but that Interstate 35 corridor between Dallas and San Antonio and Corpus Christi, there wasn't anybody west of that back during the Civil War times, hardly at all. I mean, that was still pretty much the Native American population and such. And so, and most of the people were still more toward the eastern part. Nacogdoches was the biggest town in East Texas, and from Nacogdoches to San Antonio was one of the main, that El Camino Real, the main roadway.
El Camino Real, I'm aware. That's there in Bay Area. One of the main roads in Bay Area in California is named after that.
Yeah.
My first job was in California, Bay Area. So it was a nice place to start.
Yeah, that big tech center around San Jose.
Yeah.
Everything. California's just gotten strange. It was strange all along, but it's gotten stranger.
You're the historical man. You know a lot of things.
Well, you live to be 70. I mean, I'm going to be 70 on the next birthday, so you pick up a few things.
Definitely.
But
you're a nice, pleasant guy. Nice meeting you.
some people would argue that point. Namely, the union people that I used to give all kinds of trouble to at the local refinery.
Nobody not everybody on earth will like us.
Yeah.
There will be.
Well, you know, I mean, especially when you got a union work environment, they're actually encouraged not to like management. You know, so you just kind of. I told them when I left, I said, "You're gonna find out I was the closest thing to a friend you had." And they figured that out. But yeah, you know, I had the audacity to enforce the labor agreement as it was written. How dare I? Because my predecessor, who was not a technical person, he was just a up through the ranks guy, had been a union member. He just kind of did what they wanted him to do. As long as nobody caught on, it was all good. But anyway, that's all water under the bridge.
You and your family can see this video. I'm going to give you the link.
Okay, good.
So even they will love seeing you.
Yeah.
Because you told a lot good things, and
Well,
so people will love this video.
Yeah, the last
Capture
one I
some
did-
trains too. It's running little slow, right? Maybe it will pick up the speed.
Now that one actually runs that slow. See, the thing that's misleading is in terms of scale speed, that train's probably going 50 miles an hour. That was probably going close to 70 miles an hour. The ones down there, because Lionel trains are so, there's a perfect speed for them. Go too slow, you derail. You go too fast, they derail. But those trains down there, if you were to put the scale speed to it, like 130 miles an hour. That's why the HO is always the most popular modeling scale, because it's a lot more realistic than the bigger trains. The Lionel, it was made to be a toy.
Yeah.
They didn't worry about detail. They wanted to make sure some little kids wouldn't carry it up on Christmas Day. You know?
Now they are crossing each other.
Yeah. One of the men that volunteered up here before his health got so bad, I run them as slow as I can run, because that's realistic. You don't see a train running 80 miles an hour through the middle of town. They just got to creep through there. And you know, some of the towns, trying to think which town it was. It might have been Pine Bluff on the Cotton Belt route. The train literally went through the middle of downtown. I mean,
Yeah, real train.
yeah.
Real train? No, in Dallas.
No, it would have been Pine Bluff, Arkansas, but some of the other little towns, you know, because the railroad was there before most of the town. A lot of the little towns on the Cotton Belt line, you know, they were named after railroad executives, because the railroad built the town. Union Pacific, on the Union Pacific, you got a lot of towns in different states named Durant. Well, Mr. Durant was the chief engineer for the Union Pacific's transcontinental railroad. So, you know, he built the town, he named it after himself.
Nice.
Now, the photograph behind you of that distinguished looking man with the little short tie, that's James P. Douglas. He was the president of the original part of the railroad.
Him?
Tyler Tap Railroad, yeah, that guy. And so that would have been in the 1870s. He was a Confederate Civil War officer, newspaper man. He was into a little bit of everything. But here in 1952 is the president of the Cotton Belt, H.J. McKenzie, given a special 75-year service pin to Mr. Douglas's widow. She was like almost 100, still alive, and they had a special 75-year service pin created just for her. So that was kind
In
of
the 1800s.
yeah. Well,
That was in 1800.
yeah. Well, she got married to that guy in the early 1880s.
Wow.
Yeah. So she was pushing 100 in 1952 when that photograph was taken.
Wow. Nice historical place.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Tyler, all of Texas was very fortunate that we didn't get ravaged by the Civil War like the rest of the South, and so we had a big population boom in the 1870s and 80s from people coming from all over the South. We did a lot of people from Virginia relocated here, Georgia, Alabama, because they're
Oh, the
towns and
civil
cities were just
civil war
burnt.
didn't affect Texas much.
They never had a battle. We had the largest, started out as a training camp, but Camp Ford, which is to the northeast of us. It's right there where US 271, if you're on the east loop, and instead of turning back to the west when the loop turns, you just keep going up that kind of little small road where it intersects US 271. Right over on your right is Camp Ford. And that was started out as a Confederate training facility and ended up being the largest Confederate prisoner of war camp west of the Mississippi. And that's because it was kind of far enough away from all the action. And Tyler had an ordnance plant here. They made muskets and ammunition and stuff like that. But Camp Ford, there's not a lot to see out there. It's But I usually get asked if that's supposed to be Tyler, and I kind of say, well, a real loose representation. They got brick streets, so that's kind of like Tyler. And some of the buildings resemble some of the old downtown buildings, but our courthouse didn't look like a church. If you look at the front, that's a model of a church that somebody put a clock tower on top of.
Yeah, and this is the train station.
Yeah, that's one of them. We got the freight station over here. That's as far as they got. They were going to go from Kansas to the Gulf Coast, and they got tired of Lufkin. And over time, the cotton mill acquired that railroad just incorporated there. But they had a magnificent looking stone Victorian looking station over on another part of town. Of course, it's been this long gone. And the Cotton Belt built the office building adjacent to it, and that was the Texas Division headquarters for a number of years. That would have been where my grandfather was.
Oh.
And then, but in the 1950s, they built the, you familiar with the Cotton Belt building on the other side of town, you know, where you go get your automobile tags and tax office and all that? That was built in the early 1950s, and that became the corporate headquarters for the whole railroad. They shut down their corporate headquarters in St. Louis and moved everybody to town. The reasoning was a little strange. The railroad had done a deal with the city of Tyler back in like 1900, gave them the land on which the yard was built, and gave them like $20 million in exchange for them promising to have a operational headquarters in town. And a couple of times, the railroad tried to move it out. They were going to put it in Kansas. Then they were going to shut it down and move it to St. Louis. And Tyler took it to the Supreme Court and won. And so they finally said, well, we'll just shut one down in St. Louis and put our headquarters in Tyler. So Tyler was the corporate headquarters in the early 1950s through 1987 when Southern City closed it down. Rail shut down because they couldn't bring us enough rail cars to haul off the bike ride. I had to calculate how many cars we could get and how low we had to run to be able to do it. It was not pleasant. make so much diesel now, we've got to put it in rail cars and ship it out that way. Which is a good thing. Helps the railroad. The petroleum business actually kind of led to the rebirth of American railroads about 20 years ago. When they started producing the crude oil up in Montana and North Dakota, there were no pipelines. And
That's the bar station? Oh, that's the bank.
yeah, I don't know. You know, there's a company that was called Plasticville. They made all these little buildings that they sold with Lionel stuff back in the 1940s and 50s.
Wow. It's
And,
from the-
and nothing to scale.
It was from 1940 and 50, all these.
A lot now. Some of them are newer reproductions, but a lot of the old stuff that says Plasticville, they could have been back from the 50s. Yeah, easily.
Oh, so that Plasticville Fire Department, that's from 1950.
Yeah, probably so. Unless they made some reproductions, I'm not aware of. They made a lot of reproductions of that stuff. But that Rico station, which looks like an old, you know, like Western Colorado style Victorian station, that model's been available for 50 years probably. I built one in the 1980s for my train layout. But the hobby, the model railroad hobby, kind of peaked in the post-World War II era, and then in the 60s it sort of died out, and slot cars and things like that got more popular. But it had a real resurgence in the 1980s and 90s, and I attribute it to the baby boom generation that grew up with model trains being your ideal Christmas gift, finally had enough disposable income to go back and relive their childhood. So that's what I did. I still have a Lionel passenger train that we got when I was a year old, and it still runs. I've had to rewire it and do some fixing and stuff on it. But the old Lionel stuff was built so well, and the motor mechanisms were so simple that, you know, you can take them apart, clean them up, put new contact brushes in. And I had a 1950s train somebody donated to the museum here a year or two ago. And wouldn't run. I took it home, I took it apart, cleaned it up. It runs just like it came from the factory in 1950.
Oh, from 1950, somebody gave you the train and you were able to fix it, and now it's working.
Yeah, and it really more clean it up is a better way to put it. The fixing part. I tell people, I said, I draw the line at rivets. If I have to replace a rivet, I don't have the equipment to do that. But if it's just a matter of taking stuff apart and screwing it back together, and I got a little service manual that shows how all parts go back together. So I tend to take care of the O-gauge equipment. And I enjoy telling the history about the railroad and stuff. That's, like I said, my grandfather had this wonderful scrapbook about all the stuff, and he was a very civic-oriented person in Tyler back in the 30s and 40s, and you know, on the board of the Red Cross, the Salvation Army. I mean, and the rest of my family, we haven't been that civic-minded, so I've been trying to do my little part here now that I'm retired. But yeah, anyhow. So what do you want me to explain, the HO layout? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is our HO scale layout. Now this is the most popular modeling size in model railroads. And the reason the people that do this like it is because it's more realistic, and because the scale is smaller than O scale, they have the room to add the scenery and buildings and make it a little bit more realistic looking than the O-scale Lionel type trains. So it's the premier #1 modeling size for the railroads. And we've got 2 independent tracks that the trains are running on. One of them is digital control. If we had a good new engine, it would have a horn and a bell and all kinds of things like that, and make a roaring noise. The other train that's running, it's more of a conventional O-scale train that doesn't have all those bells and whistles. The electronics they literally give you all the bells and whistles. So they're able to make the sounds. But this encompasses, this is kind of the scene you'd see in the 1950s and 60s. Cotton Belt in the 50s had this Black Widow paint scheme on their locomotives that was a Southern Pacific paint scheme. And then later on in the 70s, they adopted the gray and red nose. People referred to it as the bloody nose paint scheme. But that was the paint scheme the Cotton Belt used up until the end of the railroad, and everything became Southern Pacific or Union Pacific at that point. But the railroads meant a whole lot for Tyler back in the early 1920s. The railroad employed in Tyler probably 30% of the working population. And it got progressively less because the town grew, and as railroads got more efficient, they didn't need as many people to accomplish things. And then when the East Texas oil field came in the early 1930s, we had a real increase in population related to that industry. But the railroad remained pretty relevant up and through the 1950s for sure.
What is this landscape?
With the landscape, well, this is just we have one guy that models a lot in HO, and this has actually changed in the last few years from the way we had it. We've industrialized what used to be a rural area. You can see there's still a little bit of rural stuff, but we got a John Deere dealership built in there, and this area over there kind of looks like some of the Cotton Belt yard east of us, where there's some old sheet metal looking buildings up against the railroad sidings. And the tractor trailer rig with the Cotton Belt was one of the early proponents of what they call piggyback service. They were losing local freight to the trucking industry. So they started their own trucking company, and they would move those trailers on flat cars, just like this train that's going by right there, and they would take them off at their truck terminals, which were adjacent to the rail yards, and then finish the delivery by truck. Of course, now it's all done with those shipping containers. You don't see tractor trailers on flat cars much anymore. Occasionally, but mostly it's a big intermodal shipping container. Hard to model an exact replica of real towns, but some of the new 3D printers, though, I know a guy who's been doing railroad models with 3D printing, and supposedly he's got his 3D printer program to do a replica of this depot, which would be pretty incredible.
It got a big track over here than there. The track is bigger over here compared to there. The track size.
Yeah, his stuff, it would be an HO type track size building. Yeah, they don't, the people that model in O scale typically don't get too into the scenery stuff. Now, some of them that got a lot of room can, but it's more about the just running the trains. And Lionel had wonderful operating accessories. They had log loaders and coal loaders, and they had a milk car that the guy would shoot little milk cans out on a platform. It was real play value. Here, in this scale, it's more about trying to do the scenery. The trains are almost an excuse to do the scenery. And every now and then, we always have something whimsical on the layout. And so if you'll notice, we used to have the elephant sticking out of the barn, and kids would ask me, why is the elephant in the barn? And I'd always tell them, well, Barnum and Bailey's circus quit using elephants, and he's a rescue elephant. He's on a farm somewhere now. Well, now we've got a blue Native American chasing the elephant on horseback.
Yeah.
So, one of the guys that was previously here, I think he had one of those Star Wars walking devices that would shoot out over in the middle of the town over there. You know, but some of our older board members were horrified at that. That big
Nice.
old Lego Starship Enterprise sitting on top of that thing. Which all the kids come in, oh, look, that's so cool. The older people, it was heresy. This is a train museum. Get that thing out of there. So
Nice.
one of the first things I did when they put me responsible, I just kind of encouraged them to take the Starship home, keep the old ladies happy. The old ladies are good. They're pretty good. We usually have, the City of Tyler does a museum open house. Usually it's the second Thursday of December. And so all the museums in the downtown area will stay open until like 8 o'clock, and they're free. Of course, we're always free, so it doesn't really make any difference. But like Discovery Science Plays and other places that normally charge an admission, it's all free. And you know, we might get 130, 150 people come through in that 4-hour period here. But they had some new management over at the bus company, and we always used to set up our refreshments in the little alcove that's on the other side of the breezeway. And one of the guys was like telling us, no, we're not gonna do that. Y'all you gotta do it on your own, we're not gonna help you. Well, our elderly lady board members went over and found the boss, and they read him the right on it. And that guy came over to me and he said, whatever you want, just tell us what you want, we'll do it. Just keep those women away from me from now on, okay? And I said, no problem, I'll take care of that. Well, I just kind of grinned at him and said, did you feel like you were surrounded by a bunch of badgers? He went, yeah. They told him in no uncertain terms that they'd done that for 15 years or whatever, and it was going to continue. Hot Dr. Pepper with red hot cinnamon candy melted in it. That's our specialty for the Christmas open house. Let me tell you this, when it's 70 degrees on that day, like it can be.
You're open on Christmas Day?
No, this is the open house that's the second Thursday in December. But yeah, they serve that. That's their little specialty. But it needs to be about 50 degrees outside to enjoy it. Let's put it that way. Hot Dr. Pepper with cinnamon in it. We probably get 150 to 200 visitors a month, something like that. It's only being open 3 days a week.
Thanks, Jones. Thanks for explaining everything.
Yeah, sure.
It was pleasure meeting you.
Glad y'all could come. Let me ramble on like I do.
Thank you.
You're
We had a
welcome.
nice time. You explained everything, and we are lucky that we hit that jackpot.
Yeah,
and
oh
we
yeah,
could see
yeah.
the 2 real
I know
trains.
a lot of kids will go, when the trains come by, and I go, I don't know. You just get lucky.
Now they can see in this video.
Now they can see one coming this way and the other one waiting to go. That'll be a good video. That'll be a good video.
Yep. Thank you.
And the popular size. When they were making this size, it was pretty much just the kids would, put the track on the floor. And they didn't even have transformers to power the trains with back then. They would hook up those old dry cell batteries that had the little screw down terminals on them. Yeah, a lot of those engines were run by those dry cell batteries. But most all of the O-gauge stuff down here, maybe everything but 15% or so was this one guy's collection, Clyde Bragg. Yeah. He had a serious addiction. I think he bought everything Lionel produced in the 1980s and 90s. See the little, yeah. A lot of the O-gauge stuff was that man donated to the city of Tyler, which works good because we're here.
ఇప్పుడు దాకా మీరు ట్రైన్స్ చూసారు కదా. లోపల ఇది ట్రైన్ బులెటిన్, ఏ ట్రైన్ ఎప్పుడు వెళ్తుందో ఎప్పుడు వస్తుందో ఉంది. ఇప్పుడు ఇంకా అయిపోయింది మొత్తం అంతా మీకు టూర్ లోపల మ్యూజియంలో చూపించడం. ఇంకా అదే ఇంటికి వెళ్దామని అనుకుంటున్నాము. మీకు ఊరికే ఫైనల్గా అక్కడ రియల్ ట్రాక్ బయట చూపిస్తున్నాను. మీరు ఈ వీడియో చూసి ఎంజాయ్ చేశారని అనుకుంటున్నాను. JWJones ఆయన చెప్పినవి మొత్తం మంచిగా వినండి. ఇప్పటి వరకు మీరు JWJones చెప్పినవంతా విన్నారు కదా. ట్రైన్ మ్యూజియంలో చూసారు కదా ట్రైన్స్ ఎంత బాగున్నాయో. ఆ ట్రైన్స్ చూడండి ట్రాక్ మీద ఇప్పుడు ఎంత స్పీడ్గా వెళ్తున్నాయో చూసారా. ఆ ట్రైన్ బిల్డింగ్స్ కూడా ఎంత రియలిస్టిక్గా ఉన్నాయో. కొన్ని హాలీవుడ్ మూవీస్లో కూడా ఈ ట్రైన్స్ని యూజ్ చేశారు. చూడండి ఇప్పుడు 2 ట్రైన్స్ ఒకేసారి వెళ్తున్నాయి, ఎంత బాగున్నాయో. నాకు నా చిన్నప్పుడు ట్రైన్లో ఎక్కిన రోజులు గుర్తుకు వస్తున్నాయి. చాలా బాగున్నాయి ట్రైన్స్ ఇవి. చూడండి ఆ ఓవర్ హెడ్ ఆ బ్రిడ్జ్ కూడా ఎలా ఉందో, కేబుల్ బ్రిడ్జ్ లాగా ఉంది అది కూడా. చూడండి పైన ఒక ట్రైన్ కింద ఒక ట్రైన్, 2 ట్రైన్లు ఒకేసారి వచ్చినాయి, ఎంత బాగుందో. చూడండి అవి జూమ్ చేస్తే బిల్డింగ్స్ ఆ కార్స్ కూడా రియల్గా ఉన్నట్టు ఉన్నాయి. చూడండి అవి మిల్క్ క్యాన్స్ అవి. కొన్ని అక్కడ ఫ్రూట్స్ కూడా ఉన్నాయి ఊరికే. ఇది బెల్ కూడా చూడండి ఎంత ఓల్డ్గా ఉందో. చూడండి మళ్ళీ ట్రైన్ వెళ్తుంది, పైన కింద ఒకేసారి 2 వెళ్తున్నాయి, ఎంత బాగుందో చూసారా. చూడండి ఆ పక్కన అమెరికన్ ఫ్లాగ్. మళ్ళీ 2 ట్రైన్స్ ఒకేసారి వెళ్తున్నాయి పైన కింద, చాలా బాగుంది. ఇక్కడ స్ప్లిట్ అయినట్టు వెళ్తున్నాయి 2 ట్రైన్లు. చూడండి మళ్ళీ జూమ్ చేసి చూపిస్తున్నాను ట్రైన్ని. వండర్ఫుల్ ఉన్నాయి 2 ఒకేసారి వెళ్ళడం. చూసారా మళ్ళీ ట్రైన్ వచ్చింది, చాలా స్పీడ్గా వెళ్తున్నాయి ఈ ట్రైన్స్. చూడండి మళ్ళీ అక్కడ చిన్నది అక్కడ విండ్ మిల్, రైల్ రోడ్ క్రాసింగ్ సింబల్, కొన్ని ట్రీస్, అక్కడ చూడండి కార్స్ కూడా ఎంత బాగున్నాయో, బిల్డింగ్స్. చూడండి అక్కడ చిన్న స్టేడియం. ఇక్కడ కొన్ని యానిమల్స్ ఉన్నాయి, చూడండి కౌస్ ఉన్నాయి అక్కడ ఇటు చివర. చూడండి ట్రైన్ మరి ఎంత స్పీడ్గా వెళ్తుందో. చూడండి ఆ ట్రైన్స్ అవి కూడా పెడుతుంటారు అప్పుడప్పుడు బిల్డ్ చేసి. షోకేజ్లో ఎన్ని ట్రైన్స్ ఉన్నాయో చూసారా, ఎంత బాగున్నాయో చూసారా ఆ ట్రైన్స్. చూడండి ఇంజిన్స్, తర్వాత బోగీలు ఎన్ని ఉన్నాయో చూసారు కదా, ఇంజిన్స్ కూడా ఎన్ని ఉన్నాయో. అప్పుడప్పుడు వీళ్ళు ఆ ట్రైన్స్ మారుస్తుంటారు. ఇప్పుడు 4 ట్రైన్స్ రన్నింగ్లో ఉన్నాయి కదా, అప్పుడప్పుడు ఆ ట్రైన్స్ పైన 2 కింద 2 ఉన్నాయి కదా ట్రైన్స్ 4. అప్పుడప్పుడు ఈ ట్రైన్స్ అవి రీప్లేస్ చేస్తుంటారు బోగీలు, ఇంజిన్స్ వాటితో. చూడండి ఓల్డ్ సూట్ కేసెస్ ఎన్ని ఉన్నాయో. ఆ కింద చూసారా పాత సూట్ కేసు అంగోండి, అక్కడ ఒక ట్రంక్ ఉంది, ట్రంక్ పెట్టి అంటారు దాన్ని. అది యాక్చువల్ మా ఇంట్లో ఒక 10 years బ్యాక్ దాకా ఉండేది. మా నాన్నగారి వాళ్ళ మదర్ అంటే మా నాన్నమ్మ వాళ్ళ ఫాదర్ ద్వారంపూరి లింగారెడ్డి అనే ఆయన బర్మాలో ఒకటి ఆ ట్రంక్ పెట్టి తీసుకొచ్చారు ఎప్పుడో ఓల్డ్ డేస్లో 1900s ఆ టైంలో. సో ఆ సూట్ కేస్ మా ఇంట్లో 10 years బ్యాక్ దాకా ఉండేది, ఈ మధ్యన కనబడలేదు. చూడండి ఇంకా ట్రైన్స్ అది ఎన్ని ఉన్నాయో. నాకు ఇది ఇక్కడ బాగా నచ్చింది. ఆ ట్రైన్ ఇప్పుడు అక్కడ వస్తుంటుంది, రాగానే అక్కడ చిన్నది ఒకటి హట్ లాగా ఉంది చూసారా, అక్కడి నుంచి స్టేషన్ మాస్టర్ వచ్చి దానికి సిగ్నల్ ఇస్తారు గ్రీన్ వెళ్ళిపోమని చెప్పి. ఇప్పుడు ట్రైన్ గురించి వస్తుంది, ట్రైన్ గురించి మనం వెయిట్ చేస్తున్నాం. చూడండి పైన ఒక ట్రైన్ వెళ్ళింది, చాలా స్పీడ్గా వెళ్తుంది. చూడండి ఇప్పుడు ట్రైన్ రాగానే అంగోండి దానిలోంచి స్టేషన్ మాస్టర్ వచ్చి దానికి గ్రీన్ సిగ్నల్ ఇచ్చి ట్రైన్ వెళ్ళొచ్చు అని చెప్తున్నారు. చూడండి ఆ పక్కన కూడా హౌస్ ఎంత న్యాచురల్గా ఉందో. ఇక్కడ గ్రీన్ వైట్ ఒక బిల్డింగ్ ఉంది చూసారా హట్ పక్కన. చూడండి పైన ట్రైన్ కూడా వెళ్తుంది. చూడండి కింద ఇంకో ట్రైన్ కూడా వస్తుంది. చూడండి మళ్ళీ స్టేషన్ మాస్టర్ వచ్చారు. ఇది నాకు బాగా నచ్చింది, స్టేషన్ మాస్టర్ వచ్చి గ్రీన్ సిగ్నల్ ఇచ్చి ట్రైన్ వెళ్ళిపోమని చెప్పడం. చూడండి మ్యూజియం పైన కూడా ఉంది. ఇక్కడ 2 ట్రైన్స్ రన్నింగ్ ఉన్నాయి కదా, ఆ పక్కన అక్కడ చూడండి అన్నీ అక్కడ ట్రైన్ ఇంజిన్ ఉంది పెద్దది. ఆ పక్కన విండో కూడా చాలా స్పెషల్ విండో అంట, అది 1900s బిల్డ్ చేసిందంట. ఆయన ఇప్పుడే ఇందాక చెప్పారన్నమాట జోన్స్. చూడండి పైన అక్కడ ఆయన అక్కడ ట్రైన్స్ని కంట్రోల్ చేస్తున్నారు అక్కడి నుంచి. Thank you. Are any of these for sale? Are any of these for sale?
I'm sorry, I can't.
Are any of these for sale?
No, the only thing we got to sell is just a little bit of souvenir kind of stuff, t-shirts
okay.
and caps and stuff. Well, I'm assuming it's the first time y'all been here?
I'm in Taylor for 2 years now.
Yeah, Tyler, but the museum.
First time.
First time.
I'm very happy.
Yeah.
It's like just 15 minutes from my house,
Okay, yeah.
and I'm really happy that it's so close.
Yeah.
It's worth even a hour drive, but I'm lucky that it's just in 15 minutes radius.
Okay.
Very happy. You're working here for a long time?
I've been volunteering here for close to 5 years.
Wow, okay.
Well, a great-grandfather that came to Tyler in 1892. Working
Oh.
for the railroad.
1992?
1892.
Oh.
Yeah, 3 of his sons worked for the railroad here in town as well.
Oh, your
That's one of my
father used to
grandfathers.
work in 1892?
Yeah, my great-grandfather
Ah.
came to Tyler in 1892.
Wow.
Working for this railroad.
Historical. Nice
Yeah.
meeting you. హలో అందరికీ హాయ్. ఇప్పుడు దాకా కాటన్ బెల్ట్ డిపో మ్యూజియం చూశారు కదా, ఆయన JW జోన్స్ ఇప్పుడు దాకా ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేశారు కదా. మీరు మొత్తం అంతా విని మొత్తం హిస్టరీ అంతా తెలుసుకొని ఉంటారని అనుకుంటున్నాను. మీకు ఈ వీడియో నచ్చితే సబ్స్క్రైబ్ చేసుకుని అందరికీ షేర్ చేయండి. మళ్ళీ వచ్చే వీడియోలో కలుద్దాం.